The storm had been merciless that night, tearing through the narrow alleys like a wounded beast. Yet in the middle of the chaos, one small lantern glowed faintly in a window of a rundown orphan shelter, its light warm, steady, and strangely defiant. Inside, 19-year-old Aiden bent over a pot of thin soup, humming softly to calm the restless children sleeping in the next room. Life had taught him hardship early, but it had also made him soft where the world was sharp. Too soft, some said. He gave away what little he had, and what he kept, he usually gave away later. That was why, when he opened the shelter door to toss out the trash and found an old man collapsed on the wet steps, he didn't hesitate for even a heartbeat. The stranger was trembling violently, his clothes soaked through, his beard wild and tangled. His fingers clutched a torn wallet with no money inside, just a faded picture of a young boy smiling beside a tall, elegant man. "Sir," Aiden whispered, kneeling, "can you hear me?" The old man's eyes fluttered open, gray, distant, filled with kind of exhaustion that felt deeper than years. "Please, don't send me away," he rasped, voice barely a breath. I have nowhere left." Aiden didn't ask questions. He just held the man's frail shoulders and helped him inside, lowering him gently onto a thin cot near the fire. "You're safe here," he murmured. "Whatever's happened, you're not alone tonight." The old man stared at him for a long moment, something unreadable flickering in his expression. Relief, fear, a secret struggling to stay hidden. Aiden didn't see it. He was too busy warming soup and drying a stranger's clothes, too busy doing what his heart always told him to do. By morning, the storm had passed, but the man was still there, coughing, weak and grateful beyond words. He said his name was Samuel. He didn't say anything else. Not where he came from, not why he carried a photograph that looked decades old, not why he flinched at the sound of police sirens far away. Aiden simply smiled. "Stay as long as you need." Days passed. Samuel regained strength, helping fix broken floorboards, reading stories to the younger orphans with a voice that grew steadier each night. He was polite, humble, and yet sometimes Aiden caught him staring at that old photograph like he was trying to remember a life that had slipped from his fingers. One afternoon, while the children played outside, Samuel watched Aiden bandage a scraped knee with gentle precision. His eyes softened and he whispered, "Kindness like yours, it's rare. You remind me of someone I lost." Aiden turned. "Your family?" Samuel hesitated. Years since I last saw him. I wasn't the father he needed." Aiden placed a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe he's still looking for you." Samuel looked away, pained. "Or maybe he hates me." Before Aiden could answer, a loud knock shook the shelter door. 3 quick raps, firm, professional, urgent. Aiden frowned. Visitors were rare here, especially ones who drove the sleek black car now parked outside. He opened the door cautiously. A well-dressed woman in a long coat stood before him, holding a tablet. Her sharp eyes scanned the room behind him. "Good afternoon. I am Detective Mira Hayes. We're conducting a search in this area. May I ask if you've seen this man?" She turned the tablet around. Aiden's breath hitched. It was Samuel, but younger, clean-shaven, wearing a tailored suit, standing beside a much younger man who bore a striking resemblance, clearly his son, and the caption below the image sent a shiver up Aiden's spine. "Missing for 7 years. Father of Billionaire CEO Adrian Blackwell." Aiden's heart thudded painfully. He slowly met the detective's gaze. I need you to tell me everything," she said softly. "Because if he's here, this could change everything." Behind Aiden, Samuel had frozen, his chest rising in shallow, terrified breaths. And the truth he had been running from was suddenly standing at his door, demanding to be heard. The detective stepped inside. Samuel stepped back. And Aiden, caught between fear, compassion, and a stranger he had grown to care for, realized that whatever happened next would change not just Samuel's life, but his own. And then, just as Detective Hayes opened her mouth to speak, a second black car pulled up outside, its doors flying open, and a tall, broad-shouldered man in a suit ran toward the shelter with a desperation that electrified the air. Aiden recognized him instantly. Adrian Blackwell, the missing billionaire's son. He stormed through the doorway, breathless, voice cracking as he shouted, "Where is he? Where's my father? The room fell silent. Samuel looked up. Adrian froze as if turned to stone. And in that suspended heartbeat, their past, broken, tangled, abandoned, came rushing back with unbearable force. Adrian stood there, chest heaving, rain still dripping from his hair, even though the storm had ended hours ago. His eyes were fixed on Samuel, wide, disbelieving, and filled with a raw mixture of hope and terror. It was as if he feared blinking would make the old man disappear again, like all the years before. Samuel's fingers trembled around the edge of the blanket Aiden had given him earlier. He swallowed hard, breath catching as he whispered a name he hadn't spoken aloud in a very long time. Adrian? The billionaire took a shaky step forward, then another, but stopped just a few feet away as if crossing the remaining distance might break something fragile between them. His voice cracked, betraying the polished, powerful image the world knew. Dad, is it really you? Samuel's eyes glistened. The lines on his face seemed deeper now, carved by regret as much as age. I didn't think you want to see me. Adrian let out a choked laugh that wasn't a laugh at all. I spent 7 years looking for you. Detective Hayes stepped aside quietly, watching the reunion with a mixture of relief and curiosity. Aiden stood near the hearth, unsure whether to give them privacy or stay in case Samuel needed him. But Samuel kept glancing his way, as if drawing silent strength from the one person who had shown him kindness with no questions asked. Adrian finally moved forward more quickly, closing the distance and lowering himself to his knees in front of his father. Where have you been? Why did you leave? His voice wavered. Why didn't you come home? Samuel blinked rapidly, guilt clouding his features. I didn't leave you, son. I was taken. The room went still. Adrian's face hardened. Taken? By who? Why? Samuel opened his mouth, but his breath hitched as if the memories themselves were choking him. Aiden stepped closer, gently placing a steadying hand on the old man's shoulder. It's okay, Aiden murmured. You don't have to force yourself. But Samuel shook his head. No, he deserves the truth. He looked at Adrian, pain raw in his eyes. 7 years ago, I overheard something at the company. Something I wasn't meant to know. People I trusted, people close to you. They were planning to sabotage the company, take control, and tear everything apart. I confronted them. I thought I could stop it. Adrian's jaw clenched, the muscles tightening. Who? Samuel exhaled shakily. Your uncle and 2 board members. They had connections I never knew existed, dangerous ones. They threatened you, Adrian. They said as long as I disappeared quietly, they'd leave you alive. So I went. I thought running would protect you. Adrian's expression darkened with disbelief and grief. Dad, you vanished without a trace. They told me you abandoned me. They told me you were weak. Samuel's voice broke. I didn't abandon you. I chose your life over mine. Silence fell, heavy, suffocating, brimming with years of hurt. Aiden looked away, giving them a moment, though his heart ached for both of them. He couldn't imagine carrying a secret like that, nor living the lives others had built around it. Adrian reached out, gripping his father's hands tightly. I would have gone with you. I would have fought for you. I know, Samuel whispered. That's why I couldn't tell you. Detective Hayes stepped forward then, clearing her throat softly. Mr. Blackwell, we suspected foul play for years, but without evidence. Adrian shot her a sharp look. We have evidence now. Samuel nodded. I kept what little I could. Documents, letters, recordings. They took almost everything, but I hid a few things. I didn't know who to trust. I planned to bring it to the police once I was sure Adrian was safe. Detective Hayes leaned in. Where is this evidence now? Samuel hesitated, glancing at Aiden. Safe, but not with me. Everyone turned to Aiden. He blinked, startled. Me? Samuel nodded slowly. You remember that night, Aiden, 2 weeks ago? When you helped me clean the storage room and found that metal box. I asked you to keep it for me, remember? Aiden's eyes widened. He had found a small locked box under a loose floorboard and stored it in the children's closet at Samuel's request, assuming it was something sentimental. I didn't open it. You said it was personal. Adrian rose from the floor, instantly alert. Where is it now? Aiden hurried to the back room and returned with the rusted box, handing it gently to Samuel. The old man's hand shook as he placed it on the table in front of everyone. Adrian watched his father carefully. "Are you sure you're ready?" Samuel nodded and took a deep breath, then opened the box. Inside were papers, a small recorder, photographs, and a few USB drives. Nothing extraordinary on the surface, but the tension in the room was palpable. Samuel gently lifted a photograph, a picture of him meeting with a man whose face was circled in red ink. Another image showed documents bearing Ford's signatures. Recorded conversations were scribbled on note cards. Detective Hayes leaned in, her eyes sharpening. "This is substantial. If the recordings match what you say, this is enough to launch a formal investigation." Adrian exhaled, shoulders tense with a mixture of fury and relief. "Those men ruined my life. They ruined his life." He looked at Samuel with a quiet intensity. "But it ends now." Samuel lowered his gaze, voice trembling. "I wasn't sure I'd live long enough to see this moment." Aiden stepped forward a little. "You will. You're not running anymore. And you're not alone." Samuel looked up at him gratefully, emotions welling. "You saved me, Aiden. Not just my life, but my hope." Adrian's expression softened with genuine gratitude. "I owe you more than I can express. You sheltered him, fed him, protected him, even when you didn't know who he was." Aiden shook his head modestly. Anyone would have done the same. But Samuel squeezed his hand. "No, I didn't. Not anyone." Detective Hayes closed the box and straightened. "We need to move quickly. If your uncle is involved in criminal activity, he'll act the moment he learns Samuel is alive. You both may be in danger." Adrian let out a long, controlled breath. "Then we take precautions. I'm bringing my father home. I'll have my security team here within minutes." Samuel froze slightly at those words, glancing around the humble shelter as if it had become his anchor in the chaos. "Home," he echoed softly, unsure. Adrian placed a hand on his shoulder. "With me, where you belong." But before Samuel could answer, a sudden shattered glass exploded at the back of the shelter, a brick hurtling through the window. Aiden jerked back, heart pounding. Adrian shielded his father instinctively. Detective Hayes drew her weapon, eyes narrowing as footsteps echoed outside. Slow, deliberate, approaching the entrance of the shelter with unsettling confidence. A voice filtered through the cracked doorway. Well, looks like the old man survived." Samuel stiffened in horror. Aiden felt the blood drain from his face, and Adrian's eyes burned with a fury he had held back for 7 long years as the shadow of a man stepped into the broken light, smiling with cold familiarity. The man who stepped through the broken doorway moved with the unsettling calm of someone who believed he owned the room. His tailored coat brushed the floor, his silver hair slicked back, and his eyes, cold calculating, fixed immediately on Samuel. Adrian's uncle. "Brother," he said with a mockingly warm smile, "you've caused quite a stir." Samuel's breath hitched. His hands shook, and he instinctively moved closer to Aiden, as if the boy's presence alone could shield him from the past. Adrian stepped in front of them, jaw clenched so tightly it looked painful. "You did this," he growled. "You tore our family apart. You lied to me. You left him to die." The uncle gave a slight shrug. "Sacrifices must be made in business, nephew. Your father got away." Detective Hayes raised her weapon higher. "Put your hands where I can see them. Right now." But the uncle didn't so much as flinch. Instead, he glanced around the shelter with thinly veiled disdain. "This is where you've been hiding?" he scoffed at Samuel. "With orphans and charity cases? How poetic." Aiden felt a flash of anger burn through his chest, but he held it down. This man wanted to provoke. "Enough?" Adrian said through gritted teeth. "You're done. It's over. We have the evidence." The uncle smiled again, wider, sharper. "Evidence? Do you think I came unprepared?" A metallic clink echoed from outside. Then another, a third. Detective Hayes' eyes widened. "Move. Everyone back." Before she finished, the shelter door burst open as 2 men in dark coats rushed in, blocking the exit. More shadows shifted outside, surrounding the perimeter. Adrian instinctively shielded his father, and Aiden backed him toward the corner, heart pounding in his throat. "You should have stayed gone, Samuel," the uncle whispered, stepping closer. "But since you've resurfaced, let me make this simple." Bang! A gunshot cracked through the air, deafening in the small room. Aiden flinched violently. Detective Hayes fired first, hitting the gunman closest to the door in the arm. Chaos exploded instantly. Shouts, scrambling feet, the crash of overturned chairs. Adrian grabbed Samuel and pulled him toward the far wall. Aiden forced his body between Samuel and the attackers, adrenaline burning through every vein. "Go!" Aiden shouted. "Get behind the shelves." But Samuel didn't listen. He grabbed Aiden's hand tightly. "You're not dying for me." "I'm not," Aiden said breathlessly. "I'm helping you live." Another shot rang out. Adrian managed to knock down one of the men, grabbing his weapon and kicking it away. Detective Hayes tackled the second as they struggled for control. The room was a whirl of movement and panic. And in the center of it, Samuel's brother watched with eerie calm, leaning against a doorframe, almost bored. "You can't win," he called over the noise. "I've already cleaned up my tracks. Even if you escape tonight, it won't matter. I control the board, the company, the media. I own everything." Adrian turned sharply, breathing hard as he wiped blood off his temple. "You don't own me." His uncle smirked. "You always were sentimental. Just like him." Aiden moved before he even realized what he was doing. With a burst of courage, he grabbed the metal box from the table and hurled it straight at the man's head. It struck him squarely. A surprised grunt left his throat as he stumbled back, hitting the doorframe with a loud crack. The distraction was enough. Detective Hayes overpowered the last attacker, handcuffing him with swift, practiced movements. Adrian stormed toward his uncle, fury radiating off him like heat. "You hurt my father. You nearly destroyed me." His uncle straightened, blood trickling from his brow, and sneered. "You were weak, both of you." Samuel stepped forward then, slow, trembling, yet somehow taller than he had been moments before. Fear still lingered in his eyes, but was overshadowed by something deeper. Resolve. "For years," Samuel said, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands, "I let your threats control me. I let your lies dictate my silence. I ran because I believed surrendering was the only way to protect my son." He took one more step, standing face to face with a man who had stolen 7 years of his life. "But I am done running." Adrian placed a supportive hand on his father's shoulder. Samuel lifted his chin. "And Adrian is not weak. He grew stronger because he survived men like you." Detective Hayes stood beside them, gun still raised. "You're under arrest." The uncle's smirk faltered for the first time. "On what grounds?" he barked. "Conspiracy, fraud, kidnapping, attempted murder." Hayes listed coolly. "And that's only the beginning." As she cuffed him, his eyes darted toward the metal box lying on the floor, its contents spilled like truth for all to see. "You think this ends me," he hissed. Adrian leaned in, voice low and deadly. "No, this ends you pretending you're untouchable." He gestured around the room. "And it ends with the world seeing the truth." The uncle was dragged out, still cursing, still fighting the inevitable fall he had feared for years. When the door finally slammed behind him, the room seemed to breathe again. Silence settled, thick, emotional, broken only by Samuel's shaky exhale as he sank onto a chair. Aiden rushed to his side, gripping his hand. "You're okay," Aiden whispered. "It's over. He can't hurt you anymore." Samuel looked up at him with a tired, grateful smile. "Only because of you." Adrian knelt beside them, emotion thick in his voice. "Aiden, you saved his life. And mine. I don't know how to repay that." "You don't need to repay anything," Aiden said softly. "I just did what anyone with a heart would do." "No," Samuel said, squeezing his hand. "You did what a good man does. A rare man." Detective Hayes approached him with a gentler expression than she'd worn all night. "We'll take the evidence, begin the investigation, and ensure full protection for both of you." Adrian rose, helping his father up slowly. "We're going home," he murmured to Samuel. "Where you belong." Samuel paused, glancing around the shelter. Its cracked walls, old wooden floors, the quiet hum of safety it had given him. His gaze landed on Aiden. Home, he repeated softly. I wouldn't have survived without this one. Aiden felt warmth spread through his chest. Adrian smiled faintly. Then he comes with us. Aiden stepped back, startled. Me? No, this is my place. The kids, the shelter. You've spent your whole life giving, Adrian said gently. Let someone give back. You'll still help the children. You'll still be you. But you won't do it alone anymore. Samuel nodded, eyes misting. Let us give you the future you deserve. Aiden swallowed hard, emotion thick in his throat. He had never imagined anything like this. Never imagined being wanted, valued, chosen by anyone. But when he looked into Samuel's weary, hopeful eyes and Adrian's steady, grateful expression, something inside him shifted. For the first time in his life, he felt the unmistakable weight of a new beginning settling into place. Outside, police lights flashed against the fading night. Inside, 3 lives broken by fear, rebuilt by love, and forever bound by fate, stood together on the edge of something extraordinary. Aiden inhaled slowly, heart full, and whispered, I'm ready.